When someone like Brother Smith says why black people are not going to vote for Republican, give him some of this information. And so in addition to all the other things that Trump has done, he has dismantled and overseen the dismantling of the Voting Rights Act, of the Fair Housing Act, and has created an environment where the Civil Rights Act is hanging by a thread. There was an executive order that said in the federal government, we can't be racist when it comes to federal contracting. Donald Trump could have just sat there and ate his food and left it alone. He took his political power, his presidential power, to rescind, to end that executive order. So now discrimination in federal government contracting is no longer prohibited. That's a fundamental reason as to why black people probably should not be considering the Republican Party right now. Donald Trump even revoked statutes that barred segregated facilities, which means there is not currently executive orders on the books that ban segregated facilities in the federal government. Do we need screens built up around the remaining black workers, cages built up around them to make the point clear that this is why we are not going to listen to people who are offering us nothing but foolishness? I hope so. We talked a lot about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We talked a lot about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And we talked not as much about the Fair Housing Act of 1968. These were the three pieces of legislation, the three legs upon which America was pivoting from proactive Jim Crow segregation to integration, such as it was. Now, integration was not phenomenal. And we had conversations on air yesterday where we talked about the challenges of integration. But it was a moment where being racist in the way that the Trump administration was technically illegal. And the Fair Housing Act was the third piece of legislation that basically banned discrimination and racism in the provision of housing. Now, obviously, there were a lot of problems with that because we had redlining with the Fair Housing Act in place. We had a whole bunch of housing discrimination issues with the Fair Housing Act in place. And so what we have to ask ourselves is not, well, what good was it to have a Fair Housing Act? The question we got to ask ourselves is how much worse was it before we had the Fair Housing Act? You see how that shifts things, how that shifts the analysis a little bit?